Hi and welcome back. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to rank the house guests that are still in the house here at the week 5 mark in the game. So we're going to do the top 6 players, starting with 6 and working up to 1, and just my opinion on how the players are playing, the top 6 people. So I think we're about a third of the way, or a little more than a third of the way through Big Brother Season 22 All-Stars. I don't think CBS has officially announced an end date yet. Let me know if you guys know if that's true or not. But from what they've been saying in the House, they've been mentioning October 28th as what they think the end date would be. So I don't know if CBS confirmed that to the players or if they're just guessing based on things that they've heard. But I think October 28th is kind of what we're working with now. And again, I don't know if CBS has officially stated that. So if anyone knows any of that, please let me know. So let's start with my number 6 player. I'm going to go with Dani as being my number 6. She is one of the 3 house guests that, of course, is in 2 main alliances. So we have still our 2 main alliances, which is the Slick 6 and the Committee, and Dani is in both. So that's good for her to be in, obviously, the 2 main alliances. And then she's also very tight with Nicole. So I'm not sure if they actually have a final 2, but they definitely are very tight and going to stick together, hopefully, to the end. So lately, she's had some questionable gameplay, which is kind of causing people to question her in the house and her loyalty and where her head's at. So she had that hinky vote, as everyone's calling it, that put her under a lot of suspicion, especially with Cody, when she kind of discussed with Cody throwing Janelle a couple hinky votes to keep Janelle that week and instead of Kaiser. And Cody said, no, I don't want to do that. And then, but Dani still decided to go ahead anyway and do it. And then Enzo, of course, threw one for Janelle to stay as well. So nobody really knows who who the people are that obviously voted that way. They didn't, obviously Enzo and Dani didn't admit it, but Cody kind of had suspicion after Dani came to him and asked him to do it that she was one of the votes. So that kind of caused Cody to have a little bit of doubt about Dani and not trusting her as much. So I just think her trust level is going down. And of course, trust is such a huge issue in the Big Brother house. You definitely, if you don't have people's trust, you don't really have anything. So I think that she better watch her game. She's starting to get very sloppy, which is why I put her at 6 on my list. So when Dani, when they just did the basement comp a couple days ago, of course, Dani won the replay power, which is probably the worst of the 3 powers, so it's not probably going to help her game too much. It actually just allows the HOH, an HOH to play in back-to-back HOH competitions. The HOH can never usually play in the next competition once they've been HOH to become HOH again, but her power allows that to happen. So again, I think out of the 3 powers that were won in that basement comp, hers is probably the worst, so it's not very helpful for her game. She can use it herself or give it to someone else. So I just think lately fans have been looking at Dani as a mean girl, and her strategies don't seem to be like they're going to work out and be really helpful to working out for her in the long run. And then another thing with Dani is she's seemingly intentionally not winning comps, which maybe early on that's fine and that works, but now we're kind of at the point in the game where you really need to start winning some things to keep yourself safe, to keep your alliances safe, and also just to win things, because sometimes if you go to the end, you haven't won anything, people aren't too happy to vote for you. So we'll see as the season progresses. I think she's starting to realize that she should start winning some things, and the only thing so far she's won is that basement comp, which was a secret win anyway, so no one even knows that she won it. I don't think she's told anybody. So hopefully Dani will start winning things. Okay, so number 5 on my list for the top players left in the game this Big Brother season, I put Tyler at number 5. And I think Tyler and Dani are kind of playing similar games in the fact that they're kind of getting other people in their alliances upset with them. And also Tyler is also like Dani in the 2 main alliances, the Slick 6 and the Committee. So they both have that in common. But again, he, like Dani, is kind of starting to get people worried, like Cody, because he's been telling Devon that Dani's after Devon and Day, or I'm sorry, Tyler told Devon that Dani's coming after her and Bay, And I think so his own alliance, that got back to them, and they're not too happy with him outing one of their other alliance members, Dani. So I really think that Dani wants Tyler backdoored, Tyler wants Dani backdoored, Dani wants Tyler backdoored. So I just think that they're both their games are kind of getting a little shaky. They've been throwing each other under the bus. And also then, of course, this week, Tyler had that big uproar where he told Devon and Bailey that he was going to have Christmas take one of them off the block, since Christmas won the veto, and put him up, and then he would be, he wanted to go home, so he would be like the replacement nominee when one of them came off the block, and he wanted them to vote him out because he didn't want to go home, because he wanted to go home before jury so he can go home to Angela and not be in jury. So he came up with that big plan and didn't really think it out and talked to them about it, and then he went to talk to Christmas about it, and of course, Christmas was not happy with that plan. She wanted to keep Tyler since she's close to Tyler and not keep both of those girls in the house, which wouldn't be good for her game. So she pretty much said, well, it's up to me, not you. And I have the veto and I'm HOH, and if I don't want to take you off the block, it's not happening. And I also heard that production came in. Not sure how much truth there is to this, but we did hear some rumblings that production came in and talked to him as well and said that, you can't do that. That'd be like quitting the game. So Christmas and production possibly talked him out of doing that. But I think that kind of also hurt his game. It kind of was just a weird move, kind of something that didn't work out in the end, and kind of put a target more on his back again with whichever one of those girls stays, Day or Bay. So yeah. Okay, so number 4 on my list, Big Brother All-Stars season so far this season is Christmas. When the season first started, I was never a big Christmas fan, but of course she does seem to be playing pretty well this season so far. She is in the Committee Alliance, which is probably the stronger alliance, and it's also, one of the biggest, obviously, alliances in the house. Slick Six is pretty much imploding at this point, so I'd say the one she's in is a good one to be in because I think that's the one that's sticking around a little bit longer. She's also close with Ian and Enzo. We know that Enzo chose her as his +1. She chose Ian, and then Enzo chose her for the +1s from the safety suite. So she's kind of covered from a lot of sides of the houses, and then she's also been doing really great in comps, which we figured she would. She won HOH and veto, of course, both this week and week 5, and then also she had won the safety suite, and then no one knows, but she won a basement comp. So I just think that she's kind of doing everything right. Her social game is pretty strong, and also her comp game, her physical game is pretty strong. One thing I would say she did wrong was offering to go up on the block as a pawn. I think in Big Brother, most of us know that you don't do that, but of course it did work out this time. Hopefully she won't do that again. It's a little bit dangerous. As we all know, pawns go home. We all know that. So hopefully that's in her past. And then she of course, just got in a huge fight this week with Bailey and Devon. We saw play out on the live feeds first, and I just think that hurt her game a little bit. But one of them's going home this week, so it probably won't hurt her too much. And that was good for us to have some. Finally some drama in the house, so I don't think it hurt the fans any against her, and I think everyone else in the house is okay with her, so I think she's okay. She has the blocker power from the basement comp, which is that she can block any player, including herself, from being nominated after the veto is used. So I think that's a pretty good power, so that will help her also in the game. And then so I just think she's playing a much better game than I expected at the beginning, and hopefully we'll see where this takes her. Okay, number 3 on my list of the Big Brother All-Stars players so far this season is Enzo. He seems to be in a pretty good position in the house. I never, again, wouldn't have expected. It's a little bit more old school player, but he did fit in really great with the new school players, which Janelle and Kaiser and Keisha obviously didn't. But Enzo did great at just fitting right in there with those younger people. So I think I haven't really heard anyone targeting him. I haven't heard his name come out of anyone's mouth really for putting him up for nomination or backdooring him. He's been really tight with Christmas, and of course very tight with Cody, which is so important. So yeah, I think he's just in a great position in the house right now. Again, I see the boys seem to be tighter than the girls, and then Enzo being in the Slick Six alliance. Even though I said that alliance seems to be kind of cracking, I think the guys are still pretty tight from the alliance. So I think he's holding his own and doing a little better than we thought he would with some of the new school players. And then Cody, of course, told Enzo about the committee alliance. So even though Enzo's not in the committee alliance, he knows about it and he didn't seem to really care since he knows that he's in a bunch of alliances as well, and which shows that Cody's really loyal to him. So I think Enzo is playing a great game. Put him at number 3 on my list. So number 2 on my list would be Nicole. And of course, she's a past winner, which could have hurt her, but it doesn't seem like people are really letting that affect how they feel about her. She's super tight with Cody. I think they kind of have a final 2, which again, being tight with Cody is a good thing. The guys kind of, like I said, seem to be tighter, so that could be the only thing that might affect Nicole going forward. Being a girl, the guys obviously seem to be targeting the girls this season. But I think up until the end, when the alliance has to start taking out each other, she's pretty good, solid. As of now, for the next few weeks, she seems to be sitting pretty. Like Dani, Nicole has not been winning competitions, so I think she might need to step that up a little bit to be considered like a really great player this season and have a chance of winning. But again, her and Dani are close, so she's got a bunch of different good relationships, Dani, Cody, Ian, and then so I think if she just starts maybe winning a few comps, that will help her. She doesn't want anything, not even a room comp, safety suite, basement, nothing. So yeah, that would be the one thing I would suggest for her, but I put her at number 2, so that's pretty high on my list. And then number 1, I think many of us would agree. Let me know what you think, if you do or don't agree, but I would of course put Cody at number 1. I think he's playing just such a great social and physical game. He's in so many alliances like Tyler was last year and this year, but for some reason he seems to do it a little better than Tyler does. He doesn't slip up, make all the mistakes that Dani and Tyler are making. Again, haven't heard his name tossed around. Everyone wants to be connected, which is always the best, person in the house to be, is the person that everyone wants to be in alliance with and be tight with and runs to and tells everything to, which is kind of exactly where he is right now. So again, he's like Dani and Tyler in the 2 big alliances in the house. And then him and Nicole, kind of have the final 2, and he's got like the final 2, the roots final 2 with Enzo. So he is sitting pretty right now. So he's another player that's won both HOH and a veto comp, not in the same week, but has won both. And then, of course, that proves he's a great social and physical player, and then probably the best person, in my opinion, out there at both social and physical. So yeah, Cody number 1. Let me know what you guys think. Unfortunately, his grandfather did just pass away, and I don't, hopefully that won't really affect him too much. I think he'll still keep his head in the game and know that, his grandpa would have wanted him to be there and his family would want him to be there. So hopefully that won't affect him too much. And then also, recently, just kind of to sum everything up, we had the wall yeller, that Nicole and Cody are playing everyone in the house. So those are my top 2 people, so I was hoping that wouldn't affect them too much. I think Ian seemed to really let that sink in a little bit and kind of maybe start to question things in the house. So it did maybe affect the game a little bit. I think in the long run it probably won't affect it too much, but things like that are never good for people, so that might have just put a little bit of target on them slightly. But I think basically the core 4 alliance is probably the very strongest in the house out of any alliances, and that's why I ranked 3 of the 4 members of the core 4 as my top 3. Enzo, Nicole, and Cody. Dani being the 4th member of the core 4, having a few cracks in her game, but still pretty high up on my list. So again, let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment. Tell me if I'm off base or if I'm right on, or what you think for your top players. And like my video, and we'll see you again soon.